Carl Jung warned that empaths wait quietly and observe, push them too far, and they strike with dangerous precision. Empaths are the kind of people who seem to carry the weight of the world with a soft smile. They are naturally compassionate, endlessly patient, and always there for others, no matter how much it costs them. But there's one thing that holds them back from fully saying no. They don't want to reject anyone. They don't want to disappoint, hurt, or leave someone in need. It's in their nature to give, even when they're running on empty. But here's the truth. This selflessness can be taken advantage of. People around them may not even realize it, but empaths are often exploited for their kindness. And eventually, this takes a toll. They're human too. They have limits. And when they've been stretched too thin, when the abuse finally overwhelms them, that's when you see something shift. So, what happens when an empath finally hits their breaking point? Here's 10 raw truths of what happens when empaths reach their limit. Ready? Let's dive in. Number 1. When empaths hit their limit, they'll shut down their ears. Empaths have an extraordinary gift. They listen like no one else. They hear the pain in your voice, the unsaid words, the hidden fears you won't speak out loud. They're the person everyone runs to when the world gets too heavy. People pour their hearts out to them, seeking comfort, advice, reassurance. And empaths, they absorb it all. They carry the weight of everyone else's emotions like it's their own. But here's the thing. After a while, it becomes too much. They can't keep carrying the emotional burden of others without cracking under the pressure. Eventually, they'll stop listening. They've heard enough, felt enough, carried enough. When they're done, they'll turn away from the emotional storm. They need to communicate too. They need someone who listens to them too. It's not weakness, it's human. But when someone, especially a narcissist, realizes that the empath who always listened, who always cared, finally turns their back, it's a wake-up call. And it's more than just shocking. It's a turning point. Because empaths, once they hit their breaking point, are done. Number 2, when empaths reach their limit, they stop doubting and start reflecting. Empaths have been trained to second-guess themselves. They see the lie behind the smile. They feel the shift in tone. They notice the manipulation before it becomes obvious. But instead of trusting that knowing, they question it. Because they've been told they're too sensitive, too intense, too emotional. So they apologize for their instincts. They silence their intuition. They carry pain that isn't theirs to hold. But Carl Jung discovered something in his clinical notes that changes everything. These empaths weren't imagining the betrayal. They were predicting it, with surgical accuracy. And when they hit their limit, they stop doubting. They stop asking for permission to trust what they feel. They stop giving energy to the people who feed off their confusion. They become something Jung called emotionally sovereign. They don't need to argue. They don't need to explain. They see, and they choose what to do with that vision. That's when everything shifts. Because empaths, once awakened, don't absorb dysfunction anymore. They reflect it. They become mirrors. Still, calm, unapologetically clear. Manipulators hate it, because the empath's presence becomes a truth serum. They hold up a mirror to the lies, the gaslighting, the excuses. And just by existing, they expose everything. No rage, no revenge, just reality. The empath doesn't break anymore. They don't bend, they don't chase, they simply see it all and walk away with their power intact. Number 3, when empaths hit their limit, they'll pull back their helping hands. Empaths are some of the most generous people you'll ever meet. They instinctively help others, whether it's lending a hand to a friend or offering a shoulder to cry on. But here's the dark side. Some people, selfish, manipulative people, take advantage of that kindness. They use the empath's generosity for their own gain, draining them without ever offering anything in return. And that's when the empath starts to change. They've been used, abused, and drained too many times. They're no longer the giving, nurturing soul they once were. They start pulling their hands back, slowly at first, and eventually they tuck those hands into their pockets. Imagine being in a romantic relationship where you're the giver. You're always the one pouring your heart out, doing everything you can to make the relationship work. But your partner, they just take and take, never offering anything in return. At some point, you'll start to feel that familiar ache. You'll want to complain about the lack of reciprocity, the one-sidedness. But here's the thing, empaths, you're not demanding anything unreasonable. You just want what everyone deserves in a healthy partnership, a balanced give and take. But when you find yourself tangled up with narcissists or emotionally draining people, that fantasy relationship you dream of, it stays exactly that, a fantasy. There's nothing wrong with giving, empaths. Your generosity is a beautiful gift, but you must protect it. You have to set boundaries, be mindful of your energy, and stop letting others drain you dry. Number 4. When empaths hit their limit, they'll minimize their sensitivity levels. Empaths feel deeply, they always have. Every word, every action, every look, empaths notice it all. They're constantly aware of how their words and actions might impact the people around them. They can feel the weight of someone else's emotions almost as if they were their own. It's not easy, but it's part of being an empath. But when the line is crossed too many times, something changes. Their sensitivity starts to shut down. They become numb. What happens when someone has always been cautious with their words, always trying to avoid hurting others, and then, without warning, someone insults them? It's a breaking point. They've been so careful, so considerate of everyone else's feelings. But now, the floodgates open, and all that pent-up frustration comes pouring out in an instant. You see, empaths are the ones who always absorb the pain of others, but who's there to absorb theirs? Who's there to catch them when they fall? No one. After enough hurt, enough betrayal, enough manipulation, they force themselves to stop feeling. They shut down that part of themselves to survive. They minimize their sensitivity because, if they don't, they'll break. They'll shatter into 1,000 pieces that no one can put back together. Number 5. When empaths hit their limit, they'll mirror their abuser's behavior. After all the pain, the constant emotional strain, and the betrayal they've endured, empaths eventually hit a breaking point. They can't keep taking the hurt anymore, so they stop offering what they once freely gave, compassion. Instead, they start reflecting the very behavior they've been subjected to. This isn't an act of malice. It's a defense mechanism, a way of flipping the script. They give their abusers a taste of what it's like to feel manipulated, to feel ignored, to feel small. And when those same abusers see the empath mimicking their cruelty, they won't know how to react. They'll be angry, upset, offended, because suddenly, the empath they once controlled is now showing them the consequences of their actions. But here's the thing, this isn't about revenge. It's not about cruelty. It's the empath finally waking up to the fact that they have power too. They've been pushed and pushed until they're no longer willing to play the role of the ever-patient listener or the martyr. When they mirror their abusers, it's not because they want to be like them. It's because they've realized that the only way to protect themselves is to reflect the pain they've been forced to carry. Empaths don't turn into monsters. They just start fighting back. It's their way of teaching the people who've hurt them that the game has changed. No one can push them around anymore. Number 6. When empaths hit their limit, their temper will erupt. Empaths are known for their patience. They have a calm, understanding demeanor that seems unshakable. They are the type of people who will tolerate others' attention-seeking behaviors, even when it's clearly draining them. They're slow to anger, and they'll do everything they can to avoid conflict. But when an empath finally hits their limit, that calm, steady exterior cracks. The emotions they've been bottling up, the frustrations, the hurt, the exhaustion, will burst out. It might seem like they're calmly listening, nodding along as others vent their troubles, their issues, their complaints. But what you don't see is the storm brewing inside. They've been fighting this battle quietly within themselves, holding back until the floodgates finally open. Empathic patience might seem endless to those around them, but the truth is, everyone has their breaking point. And when that moment comes, the calm will shatter. The empath will erupt. They'll lose control of their fury. And trust me, when an empath snaps, it's not pretty. Have you ever witnessed an empath finally lose their temper? It's rare, but when it happens, it's unforgettable. Number 7. When empaths hit their limit, they'll shut off their light. Empaths are the beacons of light in a world that often feels dark and indifferent. They bring warmth, hope, and positivity to those who need it most. Even in the face of their own struggles, empaths shine brightly for others. But here's the catch. Just like a light bulb that's been left on too long, their energy eventually runs out. The same empathy that fuels them to uplift others can over time leave them drained. When empaths hit their limit, the light they once freely gave will begin to flicker, dimming to a point where they simply can't give anymore. They will retreat. They'll protect their energy, unable to continue offering hope when their own well is dry. And it's not because they don't care. It's because they've learned the hard way that even the most radiant light needs rest, or it will burn out. Once empaths stop giving, it's not a sign of their cruelty, it's a sign that they've learned they have limits too. Number 8. When empaths hit their limit, they'll speak their minds without holding back. Empaths are known for being thoughtful, kind, and careful with their words. They use their voice to uplift, to spread positivity, and to speak about hope, peace, love, and equality. They understand the weight words can carry. They know a single phrase can either heal or hurt, inspire or destroy. But when an empath reaches their breaking point, they've exhausted all their patience and kindness. They stop filtering themselves. They stop worrying about how their words might land. And in that moment, they can be brutally honest, saying what's on their mind without any regard for consequences. The person who once tried to avoid conflict, who carefully chose their words, now speaks in sharp, direct statements, no longer concerned about how their truth might sting. It's not an act of cruelty, it's a raw release, a final outburst after all the emotional restraint. Empaths don't lose their kindness in these moments, they simply stop suppressing their truth. Number 9. When empaths hit their limit, they'll stop caring about others' feelings. Empaths are like emotional sponges. They absorb the energy, emotions, and pain of everyone around them. They feel others' joys, sorrows, and everything in between. But in doing so, they often forget to take care of their own emotions. After giving so much of themselves, constantly prioritizing others' feelings, they reach a breaking point. And when they do, something shifts. They stop caring as much about the emotional state of others. It's not that empaths turn cold or become apathetic. It's that they start to put themselves first for once. After constantly sacrificing their mental well-being to make others feel heard or supported, they realize they need to protect their own peace. They become more attuned to their own emotions. They no longer tolerate the toxicity and abuse they once absorbed without a second thought. They realize they can't keep carrying the emotional burdens of others without collapsing under the weight. It's not that they stop caring about others, it's that they finally care enough about themselves to stop enabling the cycle of emotional drain. Number 10. When empaths hit their limit, they'll become sarcastic and resentful. Empaths are naturally kind, compassionate, and loving. They see the best in people, always looking to help and heal. But when they've been mistreated too many times, something shifts. The gentle soul you once knew starts to turn sharp. After enduring endless gaslighting, manipulation, and narcissistic abuse, the empaths who once gave freely and unconditionally start using sarcasm to cope. They begin to mock the inflated egos of their abusers, not out of malice, but as a defense. It's their way of deflating the grandiose sense of self that's been imposed on them. Where once there was sweetness, bitterness begins to take root. It's a survival mechanism, a way of pushing back against the emotional toll they've endured. And while sarcasm may seem like a harsh shift from their usual warmth, it's often the only way empaths can keep from completely crumbling. This shift isn't a permanent change, it's a reaction to the pain. When empaths finally stop tolerating the abuse, they stop being the ever-giving, ever-patient individual. They fight back, even if it's in the form of biting remarks. It's not about becoming cruel, it's about protecting themselves from further harm. Now that we know empaths are not the ones to be played with, and that they'll stand on business if you try them, leave the words "Don't play with empaths" in the comments below so I know you watched until the end. And a quick word of advice: don't mess with empaths. They may seem like calm, collected souls, but when pushed too far, they can explode emotionally. You wouldn't want to be around when that happens. Let's not take advantage of their kindness. Instead, let's admire and appreciate their patience, compassion, and unwavering empathy. Are you an empath? Or do you know someone who fits that description? Share your experiences below. When was the last time you lost your patience? How did you handle it? I'm curious to hear about your own breaking points. Drop a comment and let me know if you consider yourself a true empath. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell so you never miss out. Oh, and be sure to check out this next video over there. It's going to be just as insightful.